I am Rosina Philippe, and I am a tribal elder and also a member of the Atakapa-Ishak First Peoples of the region, and happy to say today that we are still here. It shouldn't be too complicated. You know, we're not looking at the complication factor. We just want something very simple, something that will provide the need, which is to help us stay self-sufficient and give us back the ability to grow our own foods, especially that vegetative matter. Also, we want these boxes so that we can transplant and, like I mentioned before, propagate some of our indigenous plants, food plant and medicine plants, that as the environment degrades around us, it's getting harder and harder to find them in their natural habitat. After Katrina, about 5 years after Katrina, when the Mennonites were helping, they helped us to rebuild our homes. And we had these HESCO baskets to use as planters because food security, again, is very important to the village. But the water now comes up so much higher than those baskets, so everything is in it, gets inundated with salt water. And so we need to, improve our way of growing to prevent, those things from happening. So a floating garden. You can see that the pollens are rather sturdy. As the water comes in, well, then the boxes would rise, but they won't float away because they are still attached, to the house.
My name is Carmelita Silv, and I live out in Grand Bayou, and I am a part of the Atakapa-Ishak tribe, and I am a tribal member.
Do you have specifics on design shape? We know most of them will be applied to, docks and piers attached to homes. Are we locked into a specific box shape? Are you open to having them triangular, circular? Are there any specifics in shape?
As long as it's not so wide that we can't get to, even if we have to go around it, that a rectangle is fine. If it's in a it's a moon shape, and you can get into it. As long as when you can reach over, you can almost reach over to the next side, or it's not so wide that there's something in the middle that you can't get to. For the planters, we want them to endure for a while. Maybe we can use it 10 years from now and it's still there. We may have to, paint it or whatever. I don't know. It all depends on what kind of material you have. But, not at the first sign of a 50-mile-an-hour wind, and there goes your planter along with your plants and all your soil that you put in it. They have to, sustain the wind, the water, and, as far as, lightweight, that I can do it, Rosina can do it. We don't have too many men out here, and a lot of our young people go out to college, they get jobs, they come back to visit, but they don't live here. So we'd have to do it, ourselves.
We do want to make it, something that all members of our community can have access to, even the elders, that they don't move as fast or whatever, but yet they can get out there and enjoy the outdoors. We're the primary tool that we use, and we lift and we tote and we carry, but when these boxes that we were using before are really saturated with water, whether it be from rainfall or, you can't move them. And all of that plant medium that you invested in and incorporated with, your castings and your manure, and you worked at it, you compost, and then it gets full of salt and everything else that comes, on the tide. And then you have to start again, all over again, So if we could prevent that, and maybe conserve some of, our investment. That's what these boxes will help us to do. We wouldn't want anything in the environment, of course, that would cause harm. The heat can take its toll, on some materials. It will break it up and crack it and dry it out. So even water, sometimes can saturate, something. So knowing Louisiana, and I guess I would leave that up to the engineers to decide what best material to use, and of course I'm concerned with leaching, You know, we want to do organic gardens, so we don't want something that's going to leach chemicals back into the growing medium and then, you know, contaminate the plant source. It would, like the pollens and everything else, more friendly to this environment, you know, and the way it lives with this environment in the wet times, it kind of moves, you know, so it's not hardened to the point where it's going to snap and break. It has more give, it's more forgiving, I guess, to the ways that this environment sometimes treat the structures that we build. So a lot of things that we have here is made out of wood.
And you know, we've used, you know, like old nets to hold up vines like cucumbers, or we use old crab traps that they can climb on. So, and, you know, take pieces of branches that have fallen down and we use that as a stake. So we use things that are earth-friendly, animal-friendly, and cheap.
This is Louisiana, and when it rains, it pours. I mean, sometimes we get water in the yard spaces, you know, from the rain. And I said we get cloud dumps, you know. So depending on what the weather's like, you know, you may not have to water, but have drainage is, you know, for the plants when you have those events. That's important. But like today, it's it's breezy and it's not as humid as it has been, not as hot as it has been, but it's still hot. And so evaporation happens, you know, quickly. So we can just hand water some of those boxes that need to be hand watered, and others that have a reservoir, then you don't have to water every day. Maybe you can do it like every third day or something to that effect.
Of course, rainwater is best, but you know, sometimes we go maybe weeks without. I've seen the ground crack with lack of water, and sometimes, you know, some months we're having a monsoon.
Yeah. When the surge comes in, you know, it's being driven by the force and the energy of the storm, and you'd be amazed what that force can move. You know, thousands and thousands of pounds. It will move it. So these boxes that we're hoping to get, you know, we'll have some type of coupling system where cables can be like laced through that, so we can actually attach it maybe to the pylons at the house so they don't go away. Also being able to float so that, you know, the salt water, you know, won't fill it. The only time we would really be concerned about the viability of the planter boxes would be during a storm event. When the community evacuates, you know, making sure that the boxes stayed with the homestead, you know, so being able to have some type of cable to make sure it didn't float away, something that was able to withstand the surge, because the surge is very powerful, and you know, and making sure that the wind didn't flip it over, you know, so that it's upside down. So having something where it keeps, you know, the surface tension attached to the box, or something on the box, to have that stabilize the box would be important to maintain its upright position. You know, you have a growing medium of about 18 inches and you have like a 4-inch rim, maybe to be able to have the capability of stacking another 4 or 8 inches on top, just in case splash, you know, would not salt water come into the boxes from wave action. Also have some drain holes that you can actually screw something in to block them, you know, because you want to be able to drain the water once it's watered, but when the tides come in and the possibility of salt water coming up, you know, to be able to plug those drain holes so that you know, you might get a lot of fresh water coming in, but it won't allow the salt water to back up into the planter. It has to be something sturdy enough that when the surge is coming in, you know, it won't, implode or just, you know, bow out. We have to be innovative and not just repair and improve for the next storm, but for the next decade of storms. The floating boxes will address the inundation from the salt water. So that way we can have, you know, garden stuff. We can also take some of our food and medicine plants that grow wild, that are indigenous to the area. We can also like propagate them, you know, relocate them into those boxes. So not only are we having our traditional foods, you know, available to us in a space that's kind of protected, But looking to the future, they will serve as kind of like little school room plots where our young people coming up that will not be able to locate those medicine and food plants in the wild because of the environmental degradation, they will get to see them here, recognize what they are, have access to them, and that way we can keep that traditional knowledge, moving forward.